Good morning. Frost & Sullivan's Mobility, Automotive and Transportation team had a number of analysts cover the CES show this year. Now, we were primarily looking at all the greatest and latest that came out of the automotive side at the show. Now, some of the key trends that are the key takeaways that we saw at the show. Number one, a lot was showcased around automated driving, but we can classify this broadly into three areas. One is the fact that OEMs and vendors are gearing up in order to reach their effort of SAE level 3 and level 4 autonomy to go after LiDAR, especially solid state LiDAR, as a key part of the sensor portfolio. So Ford's Velodyne partnership, Pioneer's announcement, Quanergy's Gen 3, all of this falls into this bucket. And interestingly, there's a lot of supplier movement happening here, like Delphi announced that they are going to be series producing the ZFast controller for Audi. Now, one thing is clear, LiDAR is increasingly going to feature in many of the OEMs' level 3 portfolio. But that's not alone. In order to create a more redundant performance for the automated driving, one of the other areas that OEMs have openly started announcing is the building of custom maps. Now, Volkswagen and GM announced a partnership with Mobileye on this. Toyota is going at it alone like Tesla. And here, the leading location cloud vendor announced the availability of their HD Live maps. Now, maps are a very crucial part of this puzzle because it does provide you with a much longer vision and a much longer capability that's required for path planning. Now, add these two trends. The third interesting trend was what NVIDIA announced, their announcement of the Drive PX2 and their advancements towards the area of deep learning and artificial intelligence. Now, combining all these three trends, the key takeaway here is that there's a lot of software-defined activities happening here. Sensor fusion is going to be critical. Maps are going to be critical. There is no one sensor or there is no one technology that's going to be the winner, but all of these in a combined fashion. Look at Audi as an example. They're going to use maps. They are going to use laser scanner. They are going to use a lot of the other technology for their A8. Now, this is one of the very interesting trends that came out. Now, on the infotainment side, it was a little bit of a disappointment because not a lot came out in terms of future infotainment or connected services side, but we did see new systems being showcased by Volkswagen and Fiat Chrysler, which had better graphics, better performance, better touchscreen responsiveness, better user interface and all that. But again, some of the interesting things there were more on the app side was Ford and FCA announcing integration of CarPlay and Android Auto. We believe those two branded smartphone integration tools are going to be a no-brainer for the other OEMs, but there is a surprise. Toyota didn't announce CarPlay and Android Auto integration, but they instead went for the Smart Device Link, which is an open source version of Ford's App Link. And the key point there is the first time of a sorts of industry or two OEMs cooperating on a particular smartphone integration technology. Now, that is very interesting. And a couple of the other things we saw, Ford also showcased kind of their smart home integration with the Amazon Echo integration. And more interestingly, there was also a startup called Winley that showed off a very similar kind of a concept around connected home and connected car integration. A couple of the other interesting stuff are electrification continues to be a very important part of the intelligent mobility puzzle for OEMs. Audi's e-tron and Faraday Future, the newcomer, despite having a vision and a concept car, talked a little bit more about what their capabilities are through their variable platform architecture and so on. Couple of interesting things on the smart city side. BMW showcased for an OEM, they showcased a very interesting solution called Light and Charge, which is basically a retrofit EV charging unit and a street light solution that will allow BMW to extract a lot of meaningful data and supply cities with a lot of valuable information around smart parking, around energy management, around intelligent street lighting and so on. It's the very first time where we have seen an OEM directly foraying into smart cities. And the other interesting one on the smart city side was AT&T's announcement of Chicago, Dallas, and Atlanta as their first smart city customers. Now, besides this, there were still some few interesting announcements like tier ones. You could call CES by a long shot the show for tier one suppliers. almost every tier 1 supplier had a concept around HMI that touched on two areas. One is how fully digital instrument clusters will work in the era of automated driving, and two, how do you take the concept of a large central display, which is going more into the portrait side, a fully digital instrument cluster and a head-up display, and how do you network these displays? And how do you share information between these different displays? Almost everybody, Continental, Bosch, Mitsubishi Electric, everybody showcased concepts around this. So it is very safe to say that HMI are kind of like perfecting that user interface, and we even saw the AirTouch full gesture implementation by BMW. Though we do not believe, our research kind of like shows that larger OEMs will take a more cautious step towards gestures, but the fact that there's network displays or the content sharing between these different displays, that is a true trend. Even combiner HUDs were showcased by, let's say, Bosch and Continental, and our research shows that combiner head-up displays and augmented reality head-up displays will have very good growth rates in the future. Now, another trend, a very interesting trend, was around software-defined cars. Now, you would ask what this is. Basically, Tesla defined the way for how a vehicle can be updated in terms of content functionality by literally treating it like a computer on wheels and sending updates over the air. Now, this concept is fast catching up. And the difference here is that it's not just mere OTA, it is the convergence of over-the-air updates and security. And one vendor to mention here is Movimento. They showcased solutions with Delphi, with Mitsubishi Electric, with Abalta on how security and OTAs can work hand in hand in terms of introducing new features, new ADAS features, new user interface updates, all of that over the air. We believe with tons of content coming into the car from automated driving perspective, infotainment, software-defined car is a strategy that every OEM should consider. And remember, 8 out of 10 US OEMs have embedded LTE. Ford officially announced AT&T as their LTE partner with 5 years of free service, and one solid use case for this LTE is pushing those over-the-air updates. Now, we did see a number of other trends. So we've produced a lot of market insights, blogs, videos, and to check out our content, I recommend you to go here.